All right, nice guy community. Pick a business, learn to be the best at it, document and duplicate, and be the best in the country. That's what Stephen Montgomery and his partners did, and the results are astounding. The nation's fastest growing franchises, Resi Brands. House painting, garage renovation, window cleaning, and beyond, turning boring into wowing. Let's talk about his journey. Stephen, welcome to the Nice Guys.
Hey, thanks. So Resi Brands is a home service franchise brand. We have got the three brands you mentioned. But what we really believe at our core is that we want to lead a home service revolution. Homeowners are kind of fed up of inconsistent work being done by all these different companies that they try to hire. A lot of them, they won't even pick up the phone or won't even do good work. And we really want to change that. And we believe we're leading a home service revolution by offering great communication, going above and beyond for our customers. And the results are there.
Franchises are available. Check the link in the show notes. ResiBrands.com?
That's right.
ResiBrands.com. Thanks, Stephen.
Yep.
Here's what you can look forward to on this episode of The Nice Guys on Business.
It's a little different now than the studios. What they used to do is they used to, own quite a bit of the vehicles. And now it's a lot of outsourcing. It's just, business as it is now. There's outsourcing. And that's really, where I come in with what I do is, it makes sense, too, from a business standpoint. If instead of having vehicles sitting in a back lot in, Burbank somewhere, just not being used, it's utilizing cars that are out there that are owned by other people, and you just kind of get that. So I guess in the sense of the word, I'm a talent scout or talent agent for cars, for vehicles.
If my calculations are correct, when this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're going to see the Nice Guys on Business podcast. Go from where you are now to where you could be. Get expert tips to grow your business, to be more productive and more efficient, whether you're trying to build influence, grow your community, or make it rain. Best-selling author of Nice Guys Finish First, Doug Sandler, can lead the way. The Nice Guys on Business is produced by TurnKey Podcast Productions. Now, here's your host, Doug Sandler.
All right, welcome back to the podcast. Of course, my name is Doug Sandler. On the other side of the microphone, not Strickland Bonner today, but it is Daniel Dornbrach. Now, I went scouring the interwebs, Daniel, to try to find a bio, maybe do some research, maybe a website, maybe in anything. And you are the best mole, I guess. I don't have any. You're underground. No one knows about you. Who are you, and why are you here?
Thanks for having me. Thank you. It's always fun. It's very interesting. I wouldn't call myself quite a ghost, but I'm as buried into the back rooms of this industry, I guess, as you can say. So I'm just a resource, a finder of these things, and that's my space in here. So very, very low key.
All right. So for those in our community, that was a little bit cryptic. So he's the backroom guy. He is the finder of these things. So we don't know what these things are or anything. So the reason I want to bring you Daniel is because Daniel is a neighbor of mine, and we got to be friends probably a few months ago when he moved into the neighborhood, because I was looking for, as you guys probably have heard me talk ad nauseum about my fascination for early vintage Ford trucks and Mustangs. I had a 67 Mustang that I purchased about 2 years now, and Daniel had one, and he had it for sale, and it was on Craigslist. And I requested from Daniel that I come and look at the truck if he's interested in selling. I'd be interested in buying it. He said, "Okay, well, I live in Ojai," and I said, "Great, I live in Ojai also," because it was a Craigslist ad. So we were able to do that. And it was like a 2-month process, and maybe 4 or 5 weeks. Maybe it wasn't quite 2 months. And I kept reaching out to him saying, "Do you want to sell your truck? I am interested in buying your truck, but I have to see it first." He finally said, "Okay, I've just landed in a spot. I now live on this road. It's called Sunny Glen, and it's in this." And I said, "Sunny Glen?" I said, "I live on Sunny Glen."
Right.
Literally, I opened up my blinds in the front of my house, and I looked down the street, and there is the white 65, 66 Ford pickup truck that Daniel had, and he was selling it. He was literally 5 houses down from me. So
right down the street. I mean, what are the odds, right? So it was meant to be.
Kismet, as we say.
Kismet. That's right.
In Yiddish. So and then in discovering a little bit more about what Daniel does and how he does it, he is a finder of cars. He works in the film, movie, and resource business, and he actually locates people's driving machines that they want to put in a certain era movies. And then I found out a little bit more when I was hanging out with you at a party the other day. You have a fascination with trains as well. So all
I
things
do.
machines. So I figured, tell us about your business, because let's start there, and then let's get into the train thing too. But tell me about your car finding business.
Well, yeah, it's as you said, if it has wheels and somewhat of an engine, or if it's motorized, I love it, and I've always loved it since I was, as far as I can remember, a little guy. And yeah, I was in the Oppenheimer movie, technical assistant with that. I was actually the engineer and conductor on the train. Any of the railroad scenes you see, that was what I was working with there. So it's great. It's such a fun gig to have. If you can couple a passion of yours and monetize it in a sense of working in that field, it's the best of both worlds, and that's where I feel I'm very lucky.
Well, talk to our community, because I think you just struck upon a chord that I think a lot of people would really love to hear more about. You took a passion of yours and you were able to monetize it. And for those of you that may know, in the ad nauseum times I've told this story of my early stage in my career, I was a bar mitzvah DJ for 30 years. I loved music.
Yeah, yeah.
I was in the bar business for a very short period of time, and then I started doing weddings, and I discovered this bar mitzvah niche, and I did a whole bunch of parties, probably 2,000, 2,100, somewhere in there, bar and
Oh,
bat
wow.
mitzvahs. And so that became one of those things where I made money doing what I do, which is playing music and having fun and playing games and running a party. How
Love
did
it.
you turn this passion that you have of the love of machines and turn it into a business? Where was the first spark that ignited that?
The very first movie I worked on, I've been in other things. I've been in finance and worked in the railroad industry, and just kind of, you're here on this in this world, and you want to experience as much as you can. And that's, what I've always loved, is just to say, okay, let's learn something new. Let's experience this. And but back, oh gosh, this was probably 1995. I was one of the drivers on Lethal Weapon 4. A friend of mine in Las Vegas, she was a extra casting, and she says, hey, she put me in a few movies that they did in Vegas at the time. And I that's really where it sparked, because it's like, what, this is so cool to see how they film, movies, and the cars in the movies and what they were doing with it. And I really fell in love with it at the time. And, time passed, I did some other things, and fell back into it, in the past few years. Recently, I was in New Mexico, and we had worked with a pretty famous author, so to speak,
Mhm.
who hired me to run his railroad. He bought a railroad. Kind of a funny story, but
Wow.
he just, on a whim, in Santa Fe, New Mexico, it was the Santa Fe Southern Railway, and him and some business partners, they bought this railroad over margaritas is the story, right? So it said, let's buy this thing, and they didn't know anything about railroads or trains. And I've had years of experience in the railroad industry, and with tourist railroads, and this sort of thing.
Uh-huh.
So I wrote them a proposal. I didn't know who they were, or I just read about it. I put this proposal together for them. I said, this would be a really cool thing to be a part of. So I just said, why not? I wrote them a proposal. They didn't know who I was, and I sent it to them, and I get a phone call a few weeks later saying, we'd love to meet you. So
Wow, that's amazing.
it was a great gig, because it coupled, a few passions of mine, the railroad industry. We had to restore some of this vintage railroad equipment you see there. And quite a bit of that was used in the movie and film industry, which I, had quite a bit of experience in as well. So that was great, to be part of that. And coming back to California, recently from New Mexico, I was lucky enough to work in the industry here. I mean, this is the hotbed of it. It always
Oh,
will be
sure.
in Hollywood, right? So this is just incredible, just what is going on, everything from TV commercials to Vogue magazine, photo shoots to full-fledged movies. As we just wrapped this Michael Jackson movie, and luckily to use one of your cars, Doug, this beautiful
Yeah.
65 Mustang, and that was great. So this is just a blast. We have fun with it, and I'm a real particular kind of guy. I'm just kind of a car geek, and I'm very particular with the years and how the appearance is. So that's a big part of it too. If you're going for authenticity, if you're recreating a scene from 1966 as we did in that shoot, you have to make sure 90% of the time people won't notice, but guys like me are going to be watching this movie and be like, what's that?
That's
So
like the guy that's watching the the Scott Turow movie or whatever, and
Right.
it's getting into court, and you're like, no, that's so not accurate. But amateurs like me
Yeah.
don't know the difference, but guys like you that know a lot about automobiles would say, wait a minute, there's a 67 in a movie that's supposed to take place in 65. How does that happen?
That car wasn't sold for 3 months later. What are they doing? So things like this. And ask my wife. I'm the worst person to watch a period piece or anything with trains in it. I'm like, that is no. And she's just shut up and relax and enjoy the show. And I'm like, okay.
So talk to those in our community now. If you're not and it's okay, if you're not a listener to the show, you wouldn't realize that we do have a lot of people that are early stage entrepreneurs, mid-level
Excellent.
entrepreneurs, probably have been in have their side hustle or thinking about moving into their side gig as a full-time gig. Part of it is the passion that you bring in the expertise that you have, in your case, cars, machines, trains. Then there's the business side of it. What challenges did you run into when it came to, okay, I know that I love trains, but now I've got to do things like I've got to do invoicing, and I've got to send out proposals, and I've got to make sure I've got these content. Like, what was the tough stuff for you when it came to starting your own business?
It's I mean, as I think it's no secret. I mean, prepare for heartbreak, right? Prepare for you have a romantic vision of what this should be, and then the actuality of what it is comes into play, and you have to be okay with that, because there's a lot of hobbyists in the car industry that maybe want to try to do this for a living, and it doesn't go well, because you have to look at these things almost like with any business as widgets, right? You can't fall in love with one certain thing, with one certain thinking, or it has to be just a business-minded decision on everything. What is right for the client? What is right for you? In this business. But if 9 times out of 10, it still is a wonderful, passionate thing that you can make it work. And that's that. My biggest challenge at the moment with in the movie car industry is you have the production team that wants a certain vehicle or this sort of thing, and you say, well, this would be better, but no, you have to cater to what the client wants, and
right.
and that's okay. That's all right, and that's what I'll do is, if there's some just oddball, obscure vehicle that they're looking for, I'll find it for them, and then of course they'll change their mind at the last moment. You've got to hustle and find something else, and that's okay. It's you have to find the fun in it.
I think one of the vehicles that you were talking about in the Michael Jackson movie was the VW bus. I think it was that carried the band equipment. Just share a little bit of the nuances of that, and how I think you brought, if I remember correctly, did you have to have that car shipped from the East Coast here?
That was, and a lot of the vehicles, the specialized vehicles, living in Southern California, we're very lucky here. This is the mecca of classic cars, so to speak. So, I mean, 90% of the time you can find something local here within a couple hours and bring it here. What they wanted to recreate in that movie was the early stages of the Jackson 5, and the early stages of the Jackson 5 was a beat up. The band was traveling in a beat up VW bus. And that's fairly accurate. Now, what they picked for the movie was a really, really early VW bus, early 50s. And they never actually sold that one in the United States. But that's okay. Looking at it, it looks like it could be there. But, you look closer at it, it's like, oh, gosh, this doesn't even have turn signals. It has a semaphore that comes and sticks up from the side, and
wow.
All this kind of crazy stuff. And that was just in the early days of VW. But that's okay because it played the part great. And what was funny about that particular vehicle, it was the bus itself was a incredibly restored mint condition, almost museum piece, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that wouldn't be accurate. So they wrapped it
Wow.
to make it have faded paint and rust and, dirty hubcaps and everything. And it was just really, I mean, you talk about the art department, these guys are magicians, right? So
Right.
it was just so amazing to see that transformation and how they did that. But that was that's part of the movie magic, I guess you could call it. And looking at it on screen, I'm sure you couldn't tell, if it's a 1953 or later bus, the dorks like us will be like, hey, wait a minute, and hopefully there's not too many of them that'll pick that movie apart. But that's
Well, I remember when they used my my Mustang, and again, I'm new to the movie industry. I'm used to commercial shoots or weddings or whatever, just something really really simple where basically it's used as a prop, as a background. In this one particular shot, or commercial that they had. It was two previous Victoria's Secret supermodels. They were doing it for some Mexican car insurance company, and they actually had to rig my Mustang, which, as you know, created some damage on my Mustang, in spite of the fact that they said that they were not going to do any damage. They did repair it. They did make it good, and even probably better than it was when I gave it to them. But that stuff's got to happen all the time. And in some cases, I think you're dealing with cars that are, $100,000, a couple $100,000, vintage cars. Isn't that right?
Yeah. And, and quite a bit as, with the clients that we have. Part of the deal is either they want to come out and babysit it or have me come out and make sure, that everything is good to go. And what happened with yours, for example, it does happen. It's very rare, but it does happen. I mean, you can drive your car down to the supermarket and it'll get dings, right? So things happen. Like I said, they're very good about fixing things and making it right. The horror stories of people taking your car between shoots and doing donuts or doing that really doesn't happen. That's just kind of
they don't have time for that. They're running behind with their schedule as it is. What was
so many
great,
other things. Exactly.
It was so great the day that you guys picked it up to do the shoot down in Santa Paula, for the Michael Jackson movie. By the way, Nice Guy Community, it was not Daniel's company that was responsible for the damage on the car. So if you're interested, that was not it at all. But in Daniel's case, with my car that was going to the movie shoot, actually they came with a flatbed and picked up the vehicle. The tow truck driver was the nicest guy that could possibly be, gentle with the car. It's like these guys obviously they know what they're doing. They understand the relationship that most people have with their classic cars, because when you have a classic car, it's slightly different than you have I have a 2011 Toyota also. I wouldn't care if I take it to a supermarket and get a door ding. I would never want a door ding on my Mustang. These guys know how to do what they do. There's got to be some appreciation and love for the other people that are in the industry as well. Do you find the same thing with others?
Absolutely. It's a white glove service, from the get-go. And I think I sent you a few pictures when we got to the shoot site. We have a staging area and all the cars were just lined up, and, you go through them, you document everything before with pictures and make sure everything is good, and you treat these things like they're yours, because they're under your curation for the moment. And, you want to return them back as you found them. And, maybe even a little better. In our case, on that shoot, they were nice enough to fill all the gas tanks full. So, there you go. So
I did not even know that. I have not checked again, I think that was the last time that my Mustang made it out of my garage. So
there you go.
Thank you if that's the case. So for everyone that is in the industry like this, like yourself, Daniel, there's always a supportive family that's behind them. Anybody else in your family, a car or machine enthusiast?
My wife, by marriage, she wasn't a car gal until she married me, but that's a given. She's a very forgiving person, and I appreciate that. It's so very supportive. No, but seriously, she'll point out, if she's out and about, she'll send me pictures. Go, oh, look at this! It's a 53 Chevy or something like that, and I love that. And my daughters also, they're They're wonderful. My oldest just turned 18, and she's like, Dad, I want a vintage Toyota Jeep, FJ40. She loves, that look of that kind of vintage stuff. So it's wonderful. But where I got it from is my dad. I have to give him a lot of credit because he was a mechanical engineer by trade. He's always been just a tinkerer on the weekends, and from as early as age I can remember, I was always by his side, just fixing things on the car or mechanical stuff, and that's just kind of naturally to me to just kind of tinker with things, and this I wouldn't go as far as calling it a sickness, but to see something that's broken and say I can fix it, so
Well,
it's a wonderful thing.
Many people that live in neighborhoods like our little subdivision that has maybe 100 houses or something like that,
Yeah.
you don't have an opportunity to see what you have on your driveway, which is so cool. Now, some might call it, hey, there's a little bit too much vintage going on, and I'm like, no, it's just the perfect amount of vintage happening on your driveway. Share the full inventory of the things that you have on your driveway right now, Daniel.
Well, and that's just a little bit. That's just a few things I keep around here. I've got some storage, with the other vehicles there, but we've got the 65 Ford F-250 that was in the movie. We've got a 68 Buick GS Riviera, really neat car, really rare car, and then a 62 Plymouth Belvedere. And this Plymouth it's an old movie star. It was already back from the Andy Griffith show and Leave It to Beaver. And so that was a studio car from the get-go. And it's just kind of cool to watch like an old Gomer Pyle and say, oh, there's my car, sitting there. So it's a little different now than the studios. What they used to do is they used to, own quite a bit of the vehicles. And now it's a lot of outsourcing. It's just, business as it is now. There's outsourcing. And that's really, where I come in with what I do is, it makes sense too, from a business standpoint. If instead of having vehicles sitting in a back lot in Burbank somewhere just not being used, it's utilizing cars that are out there that are owned by other people, and you just kind of get that. So I guess in the sense of the word, I'm a talent scout or talent agent for cars, for vehicles.
Yeah.
So
Oh, that's pretty cool. That's a neat way of thinking about it. Yeah, it's not a talent agency for people; it's a talent agency for cars. And you have the best part about something like that is you're buying into somebody or renting somebody's car that they are keeping up to date. You're not looking for junkers. You're looking for cars for the most part that are drivable cars that have kept in good shape. It's hard to do that with a full inventory of cars sitting on a back lot somewhere.
Oh yeah, and if you listen to stories of car collectors that have like Jay Leno, for example, has hundreds of cars, how much he spends just in tires, just the annual expense, because tires dry rot, and he says every once in a while he'll hear just an explosion in his warehouse because a tire dry rotted. So
oh my God.
People, things like this is just to upkeep. And we have a good friend here in Ohio, Dwayne, and he's got 100 plus cars as well. And it's just it is a full-time gig to really just and even just keep them clean. Forget about the mechanical aspect of this as well. So
share the story. You mentioned Dwayne, and I'd love to share that story of what a recent purchase led you to another vehicle. So can you share what's on Dwayne's lot and how you acquired it?
Just out of the blue one day, we're in Santa Barbara, and I see this flatbed tow truck go by with this really cool old dump truck, and it had patina, and I said, whoa, what's this? And it went to the front gates of the scrapyard. And so I talked to the driver, and he says, yeah, it's once it goes in the gates and they get the title, forget it, then it's done, right? Then it's scrap. So I managed to get it for scrap price and saved it, and it's part of the mix now in the film industry for background vehicles, and it's just stuff like that I love to do. That's the passionate side of the things. Did it make financial sense? Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm,
but I can boast that I own a dump truck. Who can say that? Yes.
There's a small shop in the front edge of our town called Boku, and I know you know this. I'll tell my community this.
Yes.
And in the front of the shop, there is a car or a tow truck that looks just like Tow Mater from
right.
Cars, I think it is. And it's like the truck, the flatbed that you got reminds me a lot of the vintage style that Tow Mater came from. Just completely like this car that's
Oh yeah.
rusted out, but just got a good, like it's called a patina, for those of you that don't know it, it's all rust color, but it's still in solid shape. And I love that you have that truck in your inventory.
Yeah, it is, and that truck over at the restaurant is the same thing. It's a 1930s Diamond T is the name of it, and it's just this incredible conversation piece of anything. And if you look at, like I said, you mentioned patina. I mean, it's 70 years on this planet, and it tells a story. It's just the paint and the rust and the dents, and it's just it doesn't always have to be perfect. I've restored so many cars to perfection, and that's great too. But there's also something of just an original, vehicle that tells a story, and it's every dent has a story behind it, right? So that's that's kind of a fun thing to talk about as well. So
we chatted, and I think I showed you recently the 77 Airstream that's sitting in my backyard right now, and I 100% agree with you. It's never going to be perfect. I don't want it to be perfect. I kind of like the old school style that a 77 something can bring to my backyard. And I said, hey, I'd love to get these back lights working. And that was like, and you've even reminded me recently, it's like, okay, we got to get those back lights working.
You talk about exactly just the cool factor of that thing sitting back there, and it lighted up at night with the tail lights and, the running lights, the orange lights on the top. That's going to be great. So we'll get that going. That'll be fun.
So what is the next for a guy that does what you do? What is the elevated version or the next step version of that business? Is it just do more volume, or is it this is where this can take me to?
You can do, in this industry, you can do multiple things. You can start your own, brokerage, if you want to call it, for the movie industry. That works with the studios. You can work within the studios themselves as a picture car coordinator, or on the film side of things, where you're internal, working directly with the production team itself. Or you can just kind of hang tight and just be happy with freelancing as well. But every day's a hunt. I mean, you talk about just not knowing what the day brings. The phone rings or you get an email, and that's it. I mean, there's some bigger projects on the horizon, which are amazing, but these little things to fill it in between is and that's that came out of the whole the film industry itself really got hit pretty hard the last few years between COVID and then the writer's strike, right? We're just all coming out of that, and it's really not back to normal yet. There's a lot of just it's very strong, but it really just shook things up. There's a lot of people that left, a lot of rethinking of how this all works, and it's great. I mean, it's just how things are now, right? And you have to either be good with it or find something else to do. And I think that's a healthy attitude to have, and say, look, this is how it is, and we're just going to maximize it, right? So but to answer your question, yeah, I mean, it's this kind of industry, it's very, very specialized. But you have to love working under pressure. And when I say working under pressure, the phone is on 24/7. You're going to get a call at 11 o'clock at night saying, hey, that car we booked, the guy flaked out, or the car's not starting, or and there's always something. It's if it was easy, everyone would do it. And that's kind of what I keep telling myself. So
and nobody's and they're not always filming between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m.
No.
It's not. They need their scenes at the time with the light the way that it is.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you talk about just long days, and these production runs just go for weeks. And you talk about you're starting at 4 in the morning and you're wrapping 11, 12 at night, and then you do the same thing the next day. So you can see how people just really get burned out on this stuff very quickly too. So you have to love it, and that's like with anything. If you love this, if you love what you do, then this other stuff is just background noise, and it's very very manageable.
So you're located in a very good spot for this. You said Southern California is where we both are, Central Coast, whatever you want to consider what Ojai is. But where will your job take you? Does it take you out of California? Do you go to other states to do what you do? Are you searching in other states? It sounds like with that bug, the VW, you had to have it shipped in. I mean, is that pretty typical or not typical?
That's typical. If there's vehicles that cannot be found locally, then we start looking outside. You have a set radius, and that there's a budget involved with shipping and renting the car from the owners and this sort of thing. But we were looking at a recreation real quick. I might have mentioned it last time, but they wanted to recreate a scene of Zsa Zsa Gabor back in the, what was it, the late 80s or early 90s, where she slapped a cop in Beverly Hills and made news, right?
I
So
remember.
there was this kind of craziness, and they wanted to recreate that scene. So we had to, she had a beautiful white Rolls-Royce Corniche convertible with the blue interior. Not a common car anymore. Even it wasn't when it was new, and there's even less now, right? And so I actually found her exact car. And when I say her exact car, the one that she actually owned.
Wow.
And then we found a second backup, which was up north in California. But the owner of her exact car, they were on the East Coast, right? So sometimes you have to just reach out and find if production wants something specific. That's what you do. And this brings up another good point. I mean, this was a big part of the strike also, was this whole AI thing. And it's here to stay. It's a wonderful technology. It's going to do some amazing things. But for things like this, they could have just easily CGI'd this, right? And I think part of what the whole writer strike, what they really came to agreements was that the artistic, version that AI has its place in the movie industry. But there's certain things. I mean, my job can be replaced by a computer program, right? And that's kind of, to just say, okay, wait a minute, there still has to be some boots on the ground and real people with real props and vehicles and all this stuff. And that was just very comforting to hear that, because there's that's kind of scary to say, hey, we don't need you anymore. We're gonna just write a program, so. All those cars can be fake in the background.
I mean, no doubt, except for the close-up stuff, which I guess you could recreate an interior for a lot less than shipping a car across the country, maybe.
Oh yeah.
But everything that's a little bit further away, that 10-foot rule, you could probably CGI all of that. But where is the character in that?
Exactly.
I'm hard pressed to think that the movies, oftentimes in the days of billion-dollar revenue grossing movies, that they are looking at saving $500 because a car costs a few $100 extra to have it shipped.
Oh yeah, and you have to look at back. For example, I'll give you a great example is the Quentin Tarantino movie done a few years ago, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He had over 2,000 actual classic cars for that movie, set in 1969. I mean, he could have easily had a front row of vehicles and CGI to parking lot, but no, I mean, that artistic, importance to say this is real, this is how I want it. I love that. I love that authenticity. So that's still alive, which is fortunate.
Okay, so we know where you're going, maybe more of the same, just at a higher volume. We know where you do it here in California. Now we just need to know how people can reach out to you if they have an interest in either renting their car. I mean, you're always scouting for new cars, right? Aren't you?
Always, and it's always wonderful to have an inventory. We call it the book of vehicles, and it's kind of an internal thing where the studios come to look for certain vehicles. So it's Paramount Picture Cars, Paramount picturecars.com. And on there's a great link on, submit my vehicle. And that's always fun. And like what I tell people, it's not for everybody. There's not everybody, has a classic car that wants it to be rented out. But those that do, it's a fun process. The car tells a story, and you can have a story to party, say, oh, that's my car in the movie or the TV commercial sort of things. That's kind of a fun part of it as well. And it adds, what do we say, to the provenance of the vehicle itself. So that's always blessed. So and will it do anything to increase the value? Maybe not. I don't know. It's just
kind of cool to have in your resume that you were in a Michael Jackson movie or two Victoria's Secret supermodels sat in the front seat of the car. Right?
That's right.
That's always kind of fun to have that. I like having that. Just as much I like having a car that's sitting in my garage that has an income as opposed to having an outgo all the time.
And that's another thing. That's exactly, what to a great way to look at it. It's are you going to get rich, renting your car out to the studios? No, but can you offset some of the ownership costs? Absolutely. And that's really, what that's about is if it helps with the investment itself as a classic car, to offset some of those expenses. And that definitely doesn't hurt.
Super. Well, very much appreciate you sharing with our community today. For those in our community, Daniel was on our other show, Ford Mustang: The Early Years podcast, and I think we also put it on Ford pickup trucks: The Early Years too.
Right.
Just a few months ago, we did the interview, and I was thinking it'd be kind of cool to have you as a business owner or a guy that runs a business or is involved in a business of cars. It'd be kind of cool to get you on this. So thanks for sharing what you do and how you do it on the Nice Guys on Business.
Thank you for having me, and always a pleasure. Thanks again.
Steve O'Brien, go ahead and take us out of here.
Thanks for listening to the Nice Guys on Business. Please go to patreon.com/niceguys. And for as little as $1 a month, you can help support this show. You remember that thing down in Panama, right? Come on. You owe them.